Bitcoin crossed 50K yesterday, which of course is a huge psychological level and a really big event. It hasn't happened since, 2021. But I think what's really important here is not just the fact that it crossed 50K, but how this may impact our investing strategy, or certainly how it impacts my investing strategy. And in particular, how I invest in altcoins based on Bitcoin's price action. That's what I'll be focusing on in this video. I'm Andy, and this is Crypto Like a Pro, a channel where I talk about everything crypto, NFTs, and Web3 related. So as I said earlier, yesterday was a big day because Bitcoin finally crossed 50K level for the first time in a very, very long time. And of course, it's been quite a big week, or about a week, for Bitcoin. We had this massive move up, almost 20% or so. But what I think it's really important to point out here is the fact that we had a higher high, right? So the previous top was right here, and that was around 49,000. So crossing 50K is not only important from psychological point of view because it's such a big, important level, but also the fact that we went higher than this peak right here. So basically, we continue this uptrend. We now had quite a few higher highs in a row, so there is very good chance that this trend will continue. That being said, it's important to note that we had actually quite a bit of a pullback today. So Bitcoin already dipped to, below 49K, which may potentially be a beginning of a correction, something similar to what we experienced here, for example, or earlier on somewhere here and so on. That's not necessarily a bad thing. And in fact, you will see later in this video that I would quite welcome a bit of a pullback. I'll explain it in a moment. But even if a pullback happens, I think it's important to look at those two support levels. So first of all, we have this blue trend line, which if you zoom out, you can see that we're roughly honoring it for a very long time, basically since the market bottom in late 2022 or early 2023, when Bitcoin was trading around $16,000, $17,000, right? Of course, it's not perfectly drawn, but you can see that we had pullbacks roughly to this line quite a few times. Of course, there was a period when we were below it. There's no guarantee that we have to stay above it, but it certainly seems like more likely than not, even if there is a significant pullback, we'll bounce off that level. And if that pullback was to happen over the next few days, couple of weeks, that would mean a dip to low 40s, 41, 42, something like that. Second important level to look at is this purple line, that's 20-week SMA, which is Bitcoin's bull market support band or support level. As you can see, it's going up very rapidly. Currently, it's around 38,000, just above that. But if it remains on this trajectory, within the next week or a couple of weeks, it will actually cross above this blue line, and it will be well above 40K. So yeah, these are like our worst case scenarios. Of course, nothing is ever guaranteed. In theory, we may break below those levels, but I would expect that unless something really, really bad happens, it's very, very likely that we'll stay above them. And if anything, we'll just bounce off this line. Second thing I wanted to mention is the fact that although we did cross 50K yesterday, at the moment, it looks like we are actually being rejected from that level. So we are experiencing something similar to what happened here. Back then, we went up to around 49K, so not quite 50, and then we had a pullback. Right now, yes, we crossed that 50K level, but as you can see, there were only 2 days when we were sitting just above it. And today, it looks like we are going to be below 50K. So that may be just a bit of sideways action, something similar to what we experience here, for example. So it could just sort of zigzag for a few days. And then if that happens, I would expect that we'll probably go up rather than down. But we may have a bit of a pullback and then another attempt at crossing that line. Essentially, what I would really like to see is going above 50K, as we did yesterday, but then actually bouncing around that level and then moving at least a little bit further up. So basically, we can establish 50K as clearly as our support. At the moment, I would say that this is still a resistance level. But this kind of price action, those significant moves up and then like 50-20% pullback, as we had here, before that we had one here over a longer period of time, potentially beginning of another one right now. That's exactly what I've been expecting at this time of the market for quite a long while. And I've been talking about this on this channel for a long time, that basically as we are approaching the halving in April this year, and then beyond the halving, this is likely what we'll see, those big up and down movements. Overall, of course, an uptrend, but not without significant pullbacks. And it's only really towards the end of this year when I expect that we'll see bigger parabolic move up. Anything until then, it's probably going to be an up movement, but a very, very choppy one. But I think this chop is what actually presents the biggest opportunity here, especially if you are not trading Bitcoin, but you are more interested in altcoins. And I'll explain that in a minute. But first of all, we have to make some assumptions. Again, this is not financial advice. It's just basically how I see the market at the moment, just my personal opinion. I think we are in early stages of a significant bull market. And the reason why I think so is because not only there are big things happening in the crypto space, we have Bitcoin halving coming up, we had Bitcoin ETF, spot ETF approved recently, Ethereum spot ETF is likely to be approved soon, but there is also a lot happening outside of the crypto space. First of all, there is a lot of money that's been sidelined because a lot of people and a lot of institutions, essentially people and institutions who are financially savvy, were expecting significant recession coming up very soon. And of course, sooner or later we will have a recession, but at the moment it looks like it's not going to happen within the next year or couple of years, or maybe even slightly beyond that. So basically there's a lot of money waiting on the sidelines. People were stuck in cash, stuck in gold, silver, expecting the worst. And that worst case scenario didn't really happen. So all this money, or at least some chunk of this money, will likely pour into more risky assets such as stocks and crypto, especially now after the Bitcoin spot ETF was also approved. Because essentially, well, if you're sitting on all this pile of money, well, you want to put it into some use, you want to make some more profit, and the market is currently giving us indication that, well, there may be a potential to make some really solid profits. And then, of course, in a couple of years' time, yeah, things may go horribly wrong, but while the opportunity is there, well, you should take the advantage of it. So I think there will be a lot of money pouring into the market. And we can kind of already see it with the stock market. If you look at SPY, the fund that's tracking S&P 500 index, not only it crossed its all-time high not that long ago, that was previous all-time high back in early 2022, and that was around $480, or S&P 500 would be 10 times that, so 4,800. It crossed that level recently in January, but actually a couple of days ago, it went above $500. We had a bit of a pullback since then, of course, but overall, I mean, that's a very, very strong price action. A lot of stocks, I mean, Nvidia is a brilliant example here, are going up like crazy. Of course, it's not true for every stock, but if you look at big indexes, S&P 500, that's NASDAQ, you can see that there is that really, really nice move up when it comes to the price. And also, it's presidential election year in the US. And if the current administration wants to have any chance of being re-elected, they will make sure that things will not go to shit before the election. And then whichever president is chosen, well, they will want to make sure that things are moving in the right direction after they were elected. So that's yet another indicator that essentially for the next few months or couple of years, things should remain quite strong. What will happen after that, we don't know, but when the opportunity is there, we should take the advantage of it, right? So basically my theory is that we are in an early stages of a really big bull market. Things can go wrong. There is always a possibility that may happen, but I'm willing to take some risky actions because I think there is much higher likelihood that things will be going up rather than down. So based on that, I think personally, it's a good time to invest in altcoins. Again, not financial advice, but if this is something you want to do, basically if you are considering buying altcoins, probably now is not the worst time to be looking at it. And my approach is that I look at the price of Bitcoin and I'm waiting for those pullbacks like the one that happened here. I'm not going to buy anything right now, I'll see how this will play out. If Bitcoin goes sideways, altcoins will likely start dipping a bit. If Bitcoin goes down, altcoins will be hit really, really hard. The thing is that when Bitcoin goes down 10 or 15%, if you look at altcoins, they get absolutely slaughtered. So we had, for example, CDFI sitting at around $4.6 and then going down to 2.6. Altura, that went to like 8 cents and then down to about 4.5. ApeCoin is not really doing much. That's another story. Ethereum over 120 down to about 70 or 70, just above 70, and so on, so on. If you go through this list, there are some exceptions like Super. I mean, that's been going up. It had a bit of a dip then. If you look at it, it was sort of 75, 80 cents, and it did pull back to as low as 45. So that's still a significant dip, but then it had this massive run up in the last week or so. But basically, what I'm trying to say here is that when Bitcoin is experiencing this 15 or 20% pullback, altcoins will pull back by about 30 to 50%. And that's when I will be buying them. That's when I'm buying them. So for example, Ethereum, even if you don't time those movements perfectly, right? Because you probably won't, you don't want to be buying it here when it had this massive, massive run up. Let's say if you look at this movement right here, you don't want to be buying it here. But when you see this pullback, I mean, even if it goes down from like, I don't know, around $100 down to about 85, that's already quite a nice saving, right? If you look at this, well, I was not buying it when it was sitting at 120. I was buying it when it was sort of between 90 and like 80 or something like that, somewhere in those moves down right here. And of course, I didn't time the bottom perfectly, but the important part is that also I didn't buy the top. And at its current price, I'm already in a slight profit. And then, of course, if that will continue, well, that profit will grow and grow. Of course, if you zoom out and compare those prices to where we were in the bull market, you are still buying at a massive discount, even if you bought it at $120. And Ethereum is going to do anything similar to the last bull run when it was over $1,900. You'll be still doing all right. But we cannot predict how the market will play out exactly. So essentially, the cheaper we can buy stuff now, the better, right? And in terms of the projects I'm looking at, that list remains largely unchanged. So it's still Veracity, S-Fund, Altura. ApeCoin is a weird one. I have some ApeCoin, but yeah, it's not really doing much at the moment. Ethereum I'm bullish on, D-Race, Beam, Super, although like I showed you a moment ago, I wouldn't be buying Super right now because it's going up like crazy. I would wait for a bit of a pullback. If I miss it, so be it. There are plenty of other projects I'm in, so that's fine. And recently I also started looking at Paid Network. It's a launchpad. It has low market cap, just over $100 million. Fully diluted valuation is just over 200, so not that far off current market cap, pretty decent ratio. And launchpads tend to do really well in a bull market because, well, they're actually one of those few projects which have utility. A lot of crypto projects, to be a bit cynical, they don't really do anything. They are just created for the sake of creating projects and making money. Launchpads, well, at least they have some utility within the crypto space, right? They allow you to launch other projects. So there is something there in a similar way. There is, I don't know, decentralized exchanges providing some utility. It allows you to trade tokens. You can actually do something with it. It may not greatly impact the world outside of the crypto space, but at least within the crypto space, it has some real utility. So I think that's it from me for today. Just a very quick recap on what's happening in the market and essentially how I'm structuring my moves at this stage of the market cycle. If you are interested in altcoins and you're not sure where to start, or if you're interested in crypto in general and you are still quite new to this space, I created a couple of courses. I have my signature Crypto Like a Pro course, which is over 16 hours of video, and it covers absolutely everything when it comes to crypto, NFTs, and so on. But if you're looking for something shorter, I also have Intro to Crypto, which is less than 1.5 hours, $29. and it contains absolutely everything you need to get started with altcoins. So how to set up your crypto wallet, how to set up account on a crypto exchange, buy Ethereum, transfer funds between exchange and your wallet, how to connect to a decentralized exchange and buy crypto there, how to find altcoins, and so on. So yeah, for $29, you can basically just have everything you need to start with trading altcoins. As always, if you have any comments or suggestions, please put them in the comment section. If possible, I will try to include them in next videos. And I think that's it from me for today. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.